I now have the privilege of introducing our next speaker. Our next speaker is a daughter of immigrants who turned inherited silence into leadership. A graduate of the University of Chicago and crowned Miss Asian Global 4th Princess, Miss Community Service, and Miss Asian Congeniality at the 2025 Miss Asian Global Pageant, Lisa Cheng has transformed her platform into purpose. As a licensed master social worker, she founded Project EmpowerHER, a leadership initiative designed to break ceilings and expand what's possible for the next generation of Asian women. Through her work, she is building the space she once needed and showing the world what happens when Asian women take a chance on themselves. Please welcome the brilliant Lisa Cheng.
Take a chance on yourself. This is my love letter to Asian women. When I was a little girl, my parents had a very specific dream for me. Go to a good school, choose a safe career, start a family. Pretty simple, right? My parents dreamed of a safe life for me because growing up during the Cultural Revolution, my safety was never guaranteed. At just 10 years old, my mom grew white hairs from searching through trash and malnutrition. She was unable to find safe food. At 14, instead of reading books, she had to work in a factory. She wasn't even allowed to attend school. At this age, my mom's dream was simple: to be able to read her book without having to hide it in secret. So when my parents envisioned my future, they didn't imagine risk. They dreamed of peace. And if you know immigrant parents, you know this: risk is not romantic to them. It is dangerous. Risk is how you lose stability, how you fall behind, how you become the black sheep. You know, the one all the aunties whisper about. So I grew up afraid of risk. I learned to stay small and waited for someone else to speak first. Someone smarter, someone braver. But deep down, I knew I wanted more. My parents crossed an ocean to give me freedom, but no one taught me how to use it. I didn't believe that I deserved to take up space. That risk felt too dangerous. So I stayed quiet. I watched as others stepped forward, and I told myself maybe girls like me were never meant to lead. But I was wrong. What I thought was my insecurity was really the story of generations of Asian women taught to shrink, hide, and never challenge the ceilings set for them. And for the first time, I wondered, maybe this didn't have to end with me. Asian women don't grow up in a vacuum. We grow up inside a long history, shaped by colonialism, war, and migration. A history of being erased and exoticized at the same time. We're seen as desirable, but rarely trusted to lead. And that history doesn't just stay in the textbooks. It shows up in how we move through the world. Externally, we face racism, fetishization, and misogyny. Internally, we carry silence, shame, the pressure to be good. Good daughters, good students, and good girls who don't take up too much space. We're taught that ambition should be quiet, that mistakes should be hidden, not learned from. So it's no surprise that so many of us carry these patterns into adulthood. Today, Asian women are the least likely to be promoted into leadership and hold less than 1% of all C-suite positions. I didn't have the language for that growing up, but I would come to learn about it years later when I traveled to South Africa for an internship. I had flown halfway across the world to learn how to help people better navigate homelessness. But when I arrived, my supervisor looked confused. They couldn't find my file. In fact, no one knew I was coming. And instead of the mentorship and activation I was expecting, I was given a vague assignment to supervise the program members. Men who were twice my age. Men who had every reason to question why a young Asian woman was standing before them. Some of them didn't even call me by my name. They called me China. So I had a decision to make. I could quietly do the bare minimum and pack my bag after 10 weeks. Or I could take a chance on myself. So I started looking for opportunities to get involved. I started researching, listening to the men in the program, and building workshops made just for them. And day after day, something began to change. We started talking. We shook hands. We shared our stories. Trust slowly started replacing skepticism. And when I left 10 weeks later, those same men gave me a new nickname. They called me Professor. Half teasing, half proud. But what stayed with me wasn't the new nickname. It was learning that leadership isn't something someone hands you. Sometimes you have to step up and forge the path yourself, even if no one expects you to. This is me. I look confident here, but I wasn't always. I was the girl who did everything right on paper, but still felt left behind. The girl who waited to be chosen instead of choosing herself. And in high school, I faced a crossroads I'll never forget. I was raised on a simple formula. Keep your head down, work hard, and you'll succeed. Simple, right? My parents were the example of this. They immigrated here with very little and built a stable life for our family. So I believed that this formula worked for everyone. Until my senior year sociology class. For the first time, I learned about how race and zip code shape opportunity, how hard work isn't always the full equation. I learned that what was possible for my family was not attainable for many others. And that really hit home for me. Because I didn't want to just learn about the system anymore, I wanted to transform it. I realized I wanted to become a social worker, not a doctor. And that terrified me. Because this wasn't the plan my parents had planned for me. They wanted stability, prestige, free medical care for life. So I stood at a fork in the road. Make my parents proud or pursue the work that calls me. Even afraid, I took a chance on myself. So when I started traveling abroad to countries like South Africa and Japan to learn more about social work and helping people in need, let's just say my parents weren't too happy. To them, I was throwing away opportunity. To me, I was honoring all of the sacrifices that they had made, so I could have the freedom to choose. And that choice taught me something I didn't know then. The work that I'm most proud of has never come with a roadmap. When my co-founders and I created Asian Mental Health Collective, we were looking for proof that it could be done. We scoured the internet, looking for an example of an organization helping Asians talk about their mental health. There was nothing, not a single example of what we had envisioned. So instead of waiting for someone else, we created it from scratch. And 7 years later, Asian Mental Health Collective has raised over $3 million, funded over $350,000 in therapy, and grown our global community to over 100,000 members worldwide. this taught me something important. I didn't need anyone's blueprint to begin. And that belief gave me the courage to start Project EmpowerHER, to create a space where Asian women don't wait to be chosen, they choose themselves. Project EmpowerHER didn't start with a roadmap. It started with a realization. Everywhere I looked, Asian women were thriving. They were brilliant, thoughtful, full of ideas. Yet there were no spaces built for Asian women to grow into that brilliance. And that's where I saw the gap. Asian women don't lack ambition. They lack support and the permission to try. So I built the space I wish I had as a teen, a place where young Asian women could step into their leadership on their own terms. It had never been done before, but I was willing to try. And 2 years later, Project EmpowerHER launched its first cohort in Houston, Texas. And that is where I met Nok. Nok stood out to me from the very beginning of the program. She was a freshman among mostly juniors and seniors, the youngest of my group. I worried she might feel out of place. Instead, she became one of the strongest public speakers in the room. In this 14-year-old girl, I saw myself, a younger version of me, a little sister I wanted to protect. In Nok, I saw what's possible when Asian girls take a chance on themselves. When Nok told me Project EmpowerHER helped her find her passion, I realized that my courage had actually given her permission to begin. And what continues to humble me is this. So many of these brilliant, thoughtful young women look up to me. And some days, I don't feel worthy of that. I struggle deeply with self-doubt, and I'm deeply imperfect. And yet, these young girls see me as a big sister, not because I have it all figured out, but because I showed up anyway. Turns out, showing up, even imperfectly, can change someone's life. Here are 3 things I hope you take away with today. First, take the path that scares you. The decisions that terrified me, disappointing my parents, choosing social work, starting nonprofits without permission, are the very ones that shaped me. Fear isn't always a warning. Sometimes it's a signal to where you need the most growth. Second, step up, even imperfectly. Some days in South Africa were complete failures. The men I was trying to teach resisted, mocked, and even refused to use my name. But by showing up day after day, listening to the men in my program, I earned their trust and respect. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about showing up, even on the days it was hard. And third, build in sisterhood. You do not have to do this alone. Some of the strongest versions of me were built in a room full of women who believed in me before I even believed in myself. My pageant sisters, my mentors, my community. Women who held me steady on the days I felt shaky, who reminded me I was capable when I was ready to quit. On the days you wonder if you're enough, there is a young girl out there watching you, wishing she could be just like you. Look out for that little sister, because the strongest example you can set is choosing yourself, especially on the days you feel shaky. I used to think that being a great leader meant having all the answers. Now, I know it means being willing to move before you feel ready. I still do this work scared. I still take risks, and I still fail. But I no longer wait for anyone's permission, because my community does not need my perfection. It needs my courage. And if I can leave you with one truth, It's this: we don't need perfect heroes. We need people who step up. So step up, even imperfectly. Take a chance on yourself. Thank you.